What's up, guys? Tambo here with your weekly core report. It was an amazing week last week, loaded with winners across multiple sports. Here are some of the highlights. We kick off things in the college football streets where our members have been crushing. Phil Mix Bra hit for $1,500, while Freddie 11 won $3,400. In MMA, 57 Lions had a nice ROI, turning $100 into over $1,000. And Agency Arms LLC hit for $2.9K in NHL. Just a reminder, our memberships include all sports for one price. World Cup kicks off next week too, and we'll have a ton of content to help you shift. So sign up today and let's start running pure. In the NFL, RPS ran the leaderboards once again. I landed my 5th King of the Beach ticket. D. Bailey 2106 hit for $5K. J. Rex 777 won $38K. And D. Kafer shipped a 3rd live final seat. Our biggest sport last week was the NBA, where our members shipped left and right. Our NBA content has been on fire, and you can catch our daily shows for free by subscribing to our YouTube channel right now. ROI was strong in NBA last week too. Connor turned $28 into $1,700 using K-Falix Core. Chunky Blue turned $14 into $1,700. Junior turned $64 into $1,800. Chargers 0616 hit for $2K, while Brandon 2323 won over $10K. Our coordinators joined in as well, with Bobby Hare winning $14K. Mangone hit for $16K, while K-Falix shipped for $44,000. Congrats again to all our members. If you want to be featured in our weekly core report, drop your winning lineup in our Members Never Win channel in our premium Discord. If you're not a member, join now. You won't find a better value with all sports included for one low price. And while you're watching, hit that like button now. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Until next time, let's keep running pure.
Welcome to the Saturday NBA Hardwood Show. I am Meg, and I'm joined by my guys, Gary and Glock, and we are, of course, breaking down this 4-game NBA Saturday slate. Not many games, but still plenty of money to be won. So I'm looking forward to talking about it with these guys. Of course, before we get started, please be sure to give us a like. And, if we get enough likes, you're going to get these guys plays of the day later. So let me jump in and say hi to the guys. Glock, how are you doing today? You do our playbook, and do an amazing job. So tell me how you're doing and what you think about this slate.
Yeah, going good. Usually the day before I do the playbook, I take a look at the next slate of games the night before. And yeah, it's always nice seeing like a 4 to 5 game slate. I like that 4 to 6 game range. Like last night, if you were building an NBA lineup, I don't think you were finalizing your decisions till literally the last couple seconds, last minutes before lock. It was just, we needed the Heat news. Obviously, Kyle Lowry went off last night, played like almost the entire game, which was incredible. The Heat ran like a 7-man rotation, and one guy like barely even played, Jamal Cain, which is like insane. So when you think about it, anytime a team has 7 available players and one guy actually gets squeezed, like 6 players are just playing massive minutes. So yeah, I mean, last night was a lot of fun for sure. And, just want to keep that momentum going into tonight for sure. Excited to break these 4 games down with you guys for sure.
Absolutely. All right, let me go over to my Washington fan friend, Gary. We have a big bond here. So Gary, how are you doing today? And what are you thinking about this slate?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Just got back from DC. I had Bobby. Bobby was filling in for me on the playbooks this week. Appreciate him. He crushes. He's been crushing it, by the way, since he joined the team. I just see, top 10s and GPPs. He's bringing the fire in his articles, filling in for me on the playbook on these massive slates. I definitely appreciate it. He is definitely a plus add for this team. Glad to be back in the saddle, though. Ready to dive into this slate. Last night, man, it was not a good night for me. I was the idiot that did not play Kyle Lowry, who played 51 minutes. So Yeah, so that's how my night went. I knew pretty early though. I mean, I knew after the first quarter I was done. So then I could just enjoy my night. So and just look forward to tonight. We kind of have the same thing going tonight though with the Sixers.
Right.
So I think they're really shorthanded, and we're just going to be jamming in a few of these guys in all our lineups. So definitely looking forward to it, and I'm looking to get back on track tonight.
All right, that sounds good. Well, again, give us a like. Again, we might get to some questions later. We will give your these guys plays of the day later. But we're going to go game by game, and we're going to use that playbook. And this would be a good time to mention, if you're not a Run Pure subscriber, you probably should be. You definitely should be. You've got access to great tools like the playbook, which breaks down the games, the injury news, the kind of the building block pieces. You've got core plays, heat maps, all sorts of things that are super helpful and useful. So I'm going right over the playbook to look, and we're going to break down game by game. So first, guys, we have the Orlando Magic. They're on the back end of a back-to-back, heading to play the Indiana Pacers. The spread is 6 and the total is 225.5. Glock, what do you like in this game tonight?
Yeah, so still some injury news we're waiting on here for sure. You've got Gary Harris questionable, which, it can impact a little bit of things, but not too much. Wendell Carter Jr. is questionable for Orlando. And yeah, on the opposite side, you have Tyrese Halliburton, who obviously is a huge piece of the Pacers. He's also questionable. So we'll get that news before lock, which is a good thing. But, kind of in order to break it down, you kind of have to look at it from a twofold perspective, right? So mainly, I'll say on the Orlando side, obviously we need to keep an eye on the Wendell Carter news. If he's able to go, it kind of reduces my interest, in the bigs of Wendell Carter Jr., Mo Bamba. But if he's out, then obviously that would be a huge boost for a guy like Mo Bamba might slide into the starting lineup. We've seen that in recent past, so he could be in play as well. One guy I do like that I feel like is kind of getting underprojected around the industry is Jalen Suggs. Without Cole Anthony, he's really stepped it up in my opinion. And the past few games, you can just see it in his game logs. He's definitely going to play 30 plus minutes every game. He's shooting 15 plus times, shooting a bunch of threes. And in his last 2 games, he's played really, really well. Put up 44.5 fantasy points in the game before, and then 40.25 fantasy points. And at 5.9K, like that's something I'm definitely interested in. So I think if everyone's in on the Orlando side, including Wendell Carter Jr., I think Jalen Suggs will be my favorite target. I know Franz Wagner always projects really, really well, but man, I'm still trying to understand the projection around the industry. I understand that he could do a little bit of everything, but it still seems like he's kind of still finding his way. So I think I prefer Jalen Suggs to him. And then, yeah, on the Indianapolis side, I like Tyrese Halliburton if he's in. But if he's out, obviously a guy like TJ McConnell likely will slide into the starting lineup. 3.8K, be a building block play for sure if he's starting, because, they really don't have that many other ball handlers. But yeah, that's just something we need to keep an eye on. I do have interest in this game for sure. We just need to keep an eye on the news.
Okay. Well, Gary, what are you thinking for this first game, and what players are you liking?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much the same as Glock here. We're pretty much in lockstep. Jalen Suggs, 5,900. I mean, that's a really good price tag for what he's been doing, back-to-back 40 pieces. So like he said, if everybody's in, it's just going to be Suggs for me. And also, like he said, Wendell Carter Jr., if he misses, I probably think he's going to play here. I'm playing the guessing game here, but it's 2 hours before lock. We'll definitely have the news beforehand, but it's probably just going to be Jalen Suggs for me on this Miami side. The Indiana side it's a little bit more interesting to me because I think there's going to be somebody in this game that specifically I played last night. He got in early foul trouble. He was in a pretty good spot last night. And I think he's in a sneaky, really good spot tonight here too. And Miles Turner at 7,300. Looking at the last 7 days of defense versus position, the Magic are actually third worst against centers.
Okay.
So I think he could potentially be a lower owned play on this slate. And he's been balling outside of last night, of course, the night that I went really heavy on him.
I was with you. I played him too. So.
I mean, I love that game last night, and and it just stunk. I mean, I played Jalen Green. It wasn't
I did
good.
that too.
I mean, it
They
definitely was
kind of
not
both
good for me.
salvaged themselves though. Like Turner had a really, really bad first half, and so did Jalen Green. And then I feel like they actually did they did work in the second half to kind of like get your lineups like to a way like if you needed a min cash, you could min cash. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
like 99 to 91. You definitely don't want that when it was,
Right.
projected to be one of the best game environments for sure.
I mean, it was what was it? Almost a 240 total before pregame.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, that's
two
just
bad
insane.
teams that don't play defense. I think we'll just run it back tonight, and then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I love Miles Turner in this spot. 7,300. Like I said, Orlando's been bad versus the center, which is shocking to me because they do have some big guys down there. But Miles Turner's just been a beast, and I'm willing to forgive that early foul trouble that he cost me last night and go right back to the well here at lower ownership. There's a couple. I typically play these DVP matchups more with centers. I just think it's worked for me more in the past than other positions specifically.
Makes sense.
So, and last night I think who was it? Aiton was in another DVP spot and he crushed. He had 46 DraftKings points. So I like the DVP matchups in the center spots specifically. So yeah, Miles Turner for me. Halliburton 9K. I don't know if he's in. I don't know if he's going to make my lineup. He probably gets his 45. I just don't know if that's going to be enough on this slate. I like other guys, other higher price guys more. So yeah, on the Indy side, it's just probably going to be Miles Turner and hopefully just Jalen Suggs from the other side.
Okay. Well, then we'll head over to our second game of the night. We've got the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are favored by 3.5, heading to the Philadelphia 76ers. We've got the total set at 217.5. Glock, again, I know, well, Gary alluded to it about the injury situation, and that could open up some stuff. But as you were looking through the playbook, what stood out to you and what do you like in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Philly's missing a huge piece in their offense in Tyrese Maxey, right? He's like, obviously they're without James Harden as well, right? So that's two of their main ball handlers. So now you can expect D'Anthony Melton to slide in. Shake Milton, whether he starts or not, he's going to be tasked with a ton of minutes because he'll be like the backup ball handler, right? There was a lot in the game last night where Melton and Milton were both in. If you look at Milton, he played 31 minutes overall. So, I mean, at 3.1K on DraftKings, he's going to rate really well on, just everything. Like he's 3.6K on FanDuel as well. So he's going to be a really strong, chalky value option. But I mean, I don't think you really have to overthink it, right? It's not like Joel Embiid is going to play point guard for Philly, right? I mean, he did flirt with a triple double last night, and I was kind of impressed, like from what I saw, because I watched the game, and they would just toss him the ball at the top of the key, and they'd send cutters to and from the basket, and he was making some nice bounce passes for when he got double teams and to open threes and stuff like that. So I definitely think Joel Embiid is a premium spend up on today's slate. He can definitely flirt with a triple double. I'm not that concerned about him going against the two Twin Towers and Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. And then around him it's going to be a lot of value. Shake Milton's going to handle the rock, be a strong play. D'Anthony Melton, 5.9K, just way too cheap. He's probably going to be one of the leading scorers on this team while Tyrese Maxey and Harden are out. So love them too. And then you have Daniel House. He's projecting as a strong value play, only 3.1K, and he's small forward and power forward eligible. He could start too, but I mean, if you look at his log, let me see how many minutes he played yesterday. He played 31 minutes as well. Right. And I know he's like generally not really like ever a sexy roster. He could totally just jog the entire time. And, if he misses open threes, he's not going to really do much, but that saying minutes equals money, right? And he's going to be on the floor a lot. And he's going to be definitely in your pool for sure. And will be in mine. Georges Niang, he could start tonight. You never know for Tobias Harris. I think he's doubtful to play. So it really just depends on the lineup. But, obviously I think the three best Philly plays are going to be Joel Embiid, Shake Milton, and D'Anthony Melton. The question is, how many Philly is too much, right? I ran 150 lineups before I got on the show. And like, I'm just scrolling down and there's literally 4 Sixers in every lineup that I see. Like just keep scrolling down. So immediately in my head, like you can get different by just playing 3. and your lineup construction will be way, way different than anyone else's. So that's something I'll consider tonight. And then, yeah, on the Minnesota Timberwolves side, they're definitely a team that I hate picking on, especially when they're all healthy. You have Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, D'Lo, Gobert. Like, all four guys can just go off, or they can all eat into each other, where it's like, okay, Cat gets 20, Ant Edwards gets 20, D'Lo gets 20, Gobert gets 15 and 10. And then, you get to a spot where, like, none of them really crush their value, right? So it is hard to kind of pick a guy there. If I would, I think it would be Ant Edwards, who's coming off a 63 fantasy point performance. He's been on the record where, he's been really frustrated with the team overall and their effort, and how he doesn't really have much room to operate. But I really like what I saw in that 63 fantasy point performance. He was super aggressive. So I think he's a great tournament option tonight. One thing BigT did yesterday, where, we always talk about it, especially when I used to be on Up to Lock, is correlate with the chalk, right? And what that means is, when you have one side that's so short-handed, and lineups are just jamming those guys in, generally the opposite side goes overlooked. And you saw that last night with Miami was the chalk, and then Washington was like completely unowned. Like in the high stakes tournament yesterday, I think like Kuzma, Porzingis, Beal, they were all under 10%. And I'm not saying that'll be the case tonight, because we have a shorter slate.
Right.
But, these Minnesota pieces are definitely going to go under-owned, and correlating with my Philly pieces is definitely something I'll consider. So I definitely like Cat, and I like Ant Edwards from Minnesota. And then obviously on the Philly side, Melton, Joel Embiid, and then Daniel House is okay as well. So those are kind of my favorite plays from this game.
Okay. Gary, who are you liking in this game? And kind of like Locke said, how many Philly pieces are you looking to have?
Yeah. So just I ran Saber as well. I ran 150. I got a little bit more in mine of 3-man stack. So I'm looking now, I got 52% Philly 3-mans, and I only got 27% Philly 4-man. So I still think I'm going to stick to 3. I don't think we need to go anything more than that. There is a value play in a later game that I really like, over maybe a potential Philly piece that would get us a little bit different for that 4th spot. But yeah, I think you can play 4 in cash. I think you're playing 4 for sure. I don't know why you would play cash on a 4-game slate, but I would probably, if you're playing cash, I would definitely probably have 4. But yeah, it's definitely the Shake Milton show. I just don't see any way how he doesn't start in this spot. I mean, he basically played, it's looking like almost every minute after Maxey went out of the game last night. So I'm kind of expecting him to start. I don't, maybe Glock saw something different. But
yeah, he did start the second
think,
half, so you're probably right. Milton, House, Tucker, Embiid, Melton was who they started with. So you're probably right. And I'm sure the projection systems are reflecting that way. Just, I think Doc is like a total donkey. So who knows what he'll do.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. And one thing to mention here, I look at DVP a lot in basketball. I know I said I emphasize center more, but Minnesota's sticking out to me too against the point guard. So to give even more reason just to lock in Shake Milton in this spot, the point guard, Minnesota is second worst to point guards over the last week. That's not too shocking to me to see that. But so yeah, definitely Shake Milton here.
D'Lo, he doesn't play no defense, so it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, he plays 0 defense. So I definitely love some Shake Milton. I'm just going to lock him in all my lineups, and probably Melton too. I mean, Melton's just a really good play. 5,900. That's too cheap. I mean, he should be 7K in this role for tonight without Harris or Maxey in the lineup. So definitely like that. And Joel Embiid is definitely my favorite spend. So if you look, I just said I'm probably playing 3 Philly guys in my lineups, and I just gave you my favorite 3. So,
and those are the 3. I like it.
Just a little hint for the YouTube chat. But yeah, Georges Niang's always in play, 3,900. He's going to see increased run. I just doubt I get there on my main team. Like I said earlier, there is another value piece that's right around his price that I like quite a bit tonight from a different game. So definitely going to load up on the Philly side. And on the Minnesota side, Karl Anthony Towns, 8,700. that just seems a little bit too cheap. I know we've been talking about it all season, how we wanted to get those guys, him and Gobert's price down. Well, Gobert's price kind of tanked a little bit. I definitely don't have interest in him with a few other centers that I absolutely love on this slate, but I do love me some Cat in this spot as a bring back. I actually don't hate D'Lo in this spot either. I like the price. I mean, the price tag's pretty nice at 6,100. I don't think he's going to make my main team, but if I was doing 3 teams, he would probably make one of them. So, but on the Minnesota side, it's Cat, it's Russell, it's Ant Edwards, and then literally every starter for Philly is definitely in play. But yeah, I'm going to be focusing on Shake Milton, D'Anthony Melton, and Joel Embiid.
Okay.
One thing, Meg, before you move on.
Sure.
I think one interesting thing that you can consider on tonight's slate, if you're not playing Embiid, which, I think a lot of the field is going to, I think considering Rudy Gobert in the lineups that you do not have Embiid is really interesting, especially on DK, because he's only 6.6K on DK. I think 8K on FanDuel, you're asking a little more from him. But let's say you do play a 6.6K Rudy Gobert and you fade Embiid. You're flipping the build. You're spending up at guard and forward, and you're not spending up at center, which is what many people are going to do, right? 2 of your top values are Milton and Melton. Those guys are guards. And then you have Embiid at center. And so that's going to naturally land people into spending up, on those positions. And so if you flip the build and spend on Gobert, fade Embiid, I do think that's an interesting route in tournaments because I don't think a lot of people are going to do that. And obviously, if you're playing Rudy Gobert, you're hoping he's playing well, cleaning up the boards, not getting in foul trouble,
right?
And defending Embiid, right? I mean, I think Embiid, he played great last night, but he did have some trouble against Brook Lopez. I think Brook Lopez has had his number throughout his career, but I think he got blocked like 2 or 3 times at least. And, obviously those stocks can go a long way, especially in fantasy. So I think that's just one interesting point I forgot to mention when we were initially going through it. But, I'm not saying to fade Embiid, but, in a rule, like kind of if you're 150ing and, you're putting in your numbers and you're playing 150 or making multiple lineups, you can put in a rule like if a lineup does not include Joel Embiid, include Rudy Gobert. And I think that's just like a perfect kind of correlation that you can do because I just think it makes perfect sense in my mind. And, 6.6K, I haven't rostered Rudy Gobert all year, but 6.6K it feels like it's cheap, but, I'm not a big Rudy guy. It's just something you can consider for sure.
I think that's super interesting. And again, on shorter slates, those are the kind of things where you can get massive leverage. So I think that's really interesting. So we're halfway through, obviously, on this 4-game slate. So be sure to give us a thumbs up and put some questions in the YouTube chat. And hopefully we can get to those after we get through these next 2 games. So let's go over to the next game. Guys, we have the Utah Jazz. They are on the back end of a back-to-back, and they are playing the Portland Trailblazers. Trailblazers are favored by 4, and the total is 227.5. So, Glock, in doing the playbook, what stood out to you, and who do you like in this game?
Yeah, it's crazy because I was writing it up and, I always look at the standings kind of like to see where the teams are at. And these 2 teams are at the top of the West right now, 1 and 2 in the Western Conference Finals. So you have a matchup of, the Western Conference's top 2 teams. And, whether or not they stay here remains to be seen. I think eventually the cream is going to rise to the top. But for right now, you get a matchup of, 2 of the top teams in the West, which is actually wild to say, especially, when you think of all the memes about the Utah Jazz and,
Right.
tanking for Victor Wembanyama. I mean, I still think they're making a huge mistake by actually trying to win these games. Like, I was a Mavs fan for a while. And, when Dirk Nowitzki was kind of towards his end of his career, we were a middling team, right? You're like 6, 7, 8 seed every year. You do not want to be there when it comes to a sports fan's perspective because you're never going to get a good draft pick. Sure, you're going to make the playoffs, but are you ever going to be able to truly compete? And I think that's what the Jazz are setting themselves up for right now by winning all these games. Like, okay, it's a cool story and all to be this good, but at the end of the year, when the cream rises to the top and you're like a 6, 7, 8 seed, yeah, it's great. You're developing guys like Lauri Markkanen and stuff, but man, like you need that bona fide superstar. And I don't think Lauri Markkanen is going to be that bona fide superstar to take you to the promised land. So I don't know. I just kind of want to throw that out there, a little rant for myself. But yeah, from a fantasy perspective, both of these teams are like super healthy. So it's really hard for me to love any, a piece from either side, right?
Right.
Obviously, I think Damian Lillard, he's always in play for tournaments. He's my boy. Like, I didn't realize it, but like the other day, all my big screenshots have Damian Lillard, and he just embodies a GPP play because any night he can go for 50 raw, get you 10 assists, and just completely go off. So I think you can always consider Damian Lillard in GPPs, but it does look like he's like looking to make plays for other people this year rather than himself. He's had double-digit assists in 3 games straight. But you'd have to think of 50 balls like coming sooner or later, and it could come against this Utah team, right? This Utah team has been playing really, really high totals. They play fast. They don't play any defense. Portland does play defense, surprisingly, but anytime you get into a shootout with a bad team, well, quote unquote bad, then you never know what can happen. So I do like Dame. And then one guy that has he's a killer, man. Jusuf Nurkic. I know I'm curious to hear Gary's thoughts on this, but this Utah Jazz team, it's the DVP, right? Like they cannot defend a big man at all. We saw DeAndre Ayton last night. He's been kind of having an up and down year, not too good. Almost triple doubles against Utah. Joel Embiid 2 games ago put up 100 piece on this Utah Jazz team. I mean, they don't really have a big man, right? It's Kelly Olynyk back there. What is he going to do? So I think Nurkic is really interesting. I think he's projected for sub 10% right now, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
Sub 5% on some sites. So I think he'll be interesting tournament option. And then on the Utah side, Lauri Markkanen obviously is the guy that is the head of the snake for them. 7.8K though, man. Like, I mean, I know he got 50 fantasy points last night, but that's kind of something that you expect. And what did he shoot? He shot 15 for 18, about as best as you could shoot the ball. So that's what you want at 7.8K price tag. So I do think he's in play for tournaments. And then I think the other guy that's in play just due to price is Mike Conley. 5.7K. I think that's a little too cheap, but he does feel more like a cash play, right? He might get you like 25 to 30, and then something like that on this slate might be okay. But as you could tell, like I don't have much interest in this game. Maybe like 1 or 2 pieces max in my lineup. If I land on it, I'm cool with it. I think maybe my favorite play is Jusuf Nurkic, and then one guy, we talked about it before we hopped on, but I'll let Gary talk about it, is Malik Beasley as a potential value option from Utah, who's been playing great, doesn't have much ownership either. So yeah, I think 1 or 2 pieces max from this game. Don't love it. But if I land on, obviously if I land on Damian Lillard as a last piece or something, Jusuf Nurkic, I'll be totally fine with it.
Right. How about you, Gary? Who are you liking in this game?
Yeah, so we're back to the DVP for centers.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm going right to the well tonight. Jusuf Nurkic is going to smash for us tonight, I think.
All right. I like it.
I mean, these centers against Utah have just been eating, like Locke said. I mean, Embiid. I mean, it's Embiid, but he put up 100 against these guys. So Nurkic's not going to get us that, but he's 6,700, and I think he gets us 40 easy here. I like that for his price tag quite a bit here. Another guy I don't mind if doing multiple lineups on the Portland side is Jeremy Grant, 7,700. Price tag is not really good, but he's not going to be owned either on this slate. So definitely a good opportunity to get a little bit different there. And obviously Dame, like Locke said, he's always in play for me in tournaments. I doubt he's going to make my main build tonight, but definitely in play for sure. And on the Utah side, like Glock kind of alluded to, it's Malik Beasley for me. He's my probably outside of the Philly guys, the 3 that I mentioned specifically that are most likely going to be in my main build. Malik Beasley is probably my favorite value on the slate. He's being underprojected everywhere. Sabres got a 19 projection. Even RPS got a 21 projection. I mean, you look at his game log, 38, 22, 29, 32, 33. His last 6 games, or last 5 games. So I put his projection at 23.5, and I ran 150, and I got 80% Malik Beasley. So I like that.
Yeah,
I like that play a lot. I'm seeing 6%, under 10% ownership on him. He is going to be that difference maker for me. Instead of playing that 4th value guy from the Sixers,
right.
I'm just going to try to plug in Malik Beasley. And the good thing is he's shooting guard, small forward, so you can fit him a lot of different spots in your lineup.
Nice. Yeah.
Provides a lot of flexibility for your lineup. So that's definitely an added bonus for me. So yeah, just Malik Beasley for me on the Utah side, and then Yusuf Nurkic mainly for me on the Portland side, and just a little bit of Jeremy Grant interest and Dame.
All right. So Beasley was the player you were hinting at earlier then, right?
Correct.
All right.
Correct.
I like it. All right.
Well,
Let's go.
one thing, Max. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cut you off. I think this is the first day Yusuf Nurkic is not on the injury report. Not something I don't really notice. Like, it's something you notice in NFL for sure, right?
Right.
Oh, this guy hasn't been on the injury report for the first time in, a week or 2 weeks or whatever. But I'm not seeing Yusuf Nurkic, questionable or anything. Maybe that's a sign of good things because he's been kind of banged up to start the year. His minutes haven't been that great, 25 minutes at the most. So that's just something I noticed for sure when writing up the playbook, that he's not on there. So maybe it's a sign of good things to come. He's just a guy that I feel like, I don't know why he's injury prone, but when he's good to go, he should play 30 minutes plus. Like, there's just people like that in the league that I feel like should be getting those minutes. Alperen Sengun is another guy. Miles Turner definitely is another guy that should definitely play 30 plus minutes. There's just some guys in the league that I feel like they should definitely play 30 plus minutes if they're good to go. So hopefully that's tonight, especially if we're rostering them.
Right. All right. Well, let's go over to our last game of the night. We've got the San Antonio Spurs. They are on the front end of a back-to-back, heading to play the LA Clippers. The Clippers are favored by 9 or 8.5 on the playbook, depending on your book. And the total is 221. So, Glock, what did you see in this game? Who are you liking in this game?
Yeah, so this is another one that's kind of hard to break down without the injury news. You got Devin Vassell, questionable. Jakob Poeltl is questionable as well. And that's mainly it, but that's huge on the Spurs side because those two guys are, kind of the two heads of the snakes for the Spurs. So, if they're out, right, I think, it depends. Like, if Vassell misses, then you have a lot more playmaking opportunity for guys like Trey Jones, Josh Richardson, Keldon Johnson will get some more of the playmaking responsibility. And then if a guy like Poeltl misses, you have guys like Charles Bassey, who's been playing great off the bench. Georgie Jang maybe gets in the mix. Keita Bates-Diop has been really productive this year when he's gotten in there. So it really depends when you get the news for this game, especially on the Spurs side, because, there could be some risk reward to having some flexibility later in your lineup because this game is the last game of the night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern game, island game. So, like, generally, if you get this news at 10:01, right after that third game locks, you're not going to have much pivot options. So if you do have pieces from this game, be sure to have a plan. Like, think of your 2v2s that you're going to pivot to, 3v3s. I feel like my best nights are always when I have a clear plan, like before a lock. Okay, if this guy gets ruled out, this is what I'm going to pivot to. If he's in, I'm going to stay, et cetera, et cetera. So always have a plan for sure going into the night. And then, on the Clippers side, it's something I'll just avoid for the foreseeable future, I think, with Kawhi Leonard back in the mix. He's limited, but he does eat away into the usage of all the other players. It is kind of surprising that Reggie Jackson had his best game of the season with Kawhi in the mix. He posted 33.75 fantasy points, which was a season high. And maybe he's better with guys like Kawhi and Paul George in there, but he's not something I'm going to chase despite his low tag at 4.9K. And then, Paul George definitely going to be affected by Kawhi taken away. I'm sure they're going to want Kawhi to try to get into a rhythm. And the Clippers already play super slow anyway, so I don't think there's really any reason to force a Clippers guy in. If there would be a Clipper that I forced in, it would be Ivica Zubac. I think he's my favorite piece for sure on the Clippers side. Played 40 minutes last game and was 1 point away from a double-double bonus with 18 rebounds. So, they love him a lot, especially with Kawhi in there. And then depending on whether Poeltl's in or not, they're going to need his size. So I like Zubac on the Clippers side. And then, on the Spurs side, we kind of have to wait for the news. I don't really love anyone if they're all in, if Vassell and Poeltl are in. But obviously, if Poeltl's out, then Charles Bassey probably becomes like a smash play. And then Vassell's out. I do like that. That gives a huge bump to Trey Jones, and maybe Josh Richardson slides into the starting lineup. He'd be a low-owned pivot to a Melton or something from the first game. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when it comes to this last game.
Okay. Before we go over to Gary, if you have any questions, I saw someone ask a question we'll get to in a minute. If you have any questions, put it in the YouTube chat. But Gary, what are you thinking for this game? Who do you like?
Yeah, first off, I'll just start with the Clippers side. I'm just like Glock. I'm just going to fade this team until the prices adjust with Kawhi back. Paul George 9,800. Like I can't pay that price on this slate. Even Zubas for me, I can't do it. I'm going to play my DVP plays over
Mhm.
him and just kind of avoid this whole Clippers team. And I'm probably going to do the same thing for the Spurs. I'm just locked into the early guys and a couple of guys from the Utah Portland game, and I'm just gonna go down with that ship. But Glock kind of laid out the blueprint. If those two guys miss, if Vassell misses, Trey Jones definitely in play would be too cheap at 6,300. And then Richardson's not a guy I normally like to play. I'm probably definitely not playing him here. I still prefer Malik Beasley over him in the previous game. But Bassie would be my only worry because cheap centers who start tend to crush in NBA. So that would be my only trepidation with not having any interest on this side. But I'm probably just going to fade both sides. And yeah, hopefully we have a good night.
Enjoy your Saturday night.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, guys, I only see, it looks like one question, a lot of good comments in the YouTube chat, but I see Suggs or Melton. So Glock, I'll go to you first. What's your thoughts there?
I'm gonna say, why not both? I mean, obviously the chalkier side is definitely Melton, and then lower owned is definitely Suggs. So I just don't know how you can get away from Melton today. Likely will be in all my lineups. I forgot to touch on it, but when I ran 150 using Saber, I'm looking at my exposures here. Melton, and Embiid are 100% of 150 lineups for me, and this is just using no slider settings or anything like that in Saber. So just something to keep in mind. Those three are in 100% of lineups. And then the next highest exposed person is Daniel House at 88%. So that's 4 Philly guys that's just getting jammed in. And in slates like this, like I'm totally okay with it. Like I take an aggressive approach. Like I'm not going to lower the exposure down to 80% or anything like that. If it's a smash value play at these prices, I'm just going to play 100% of them. And we get that question a lot in Discord, like how much of this person should you have? And,
right.
It all comes to risk tolerance, right? Like if I play 100% Shake Milton and he gets hurt the first play of the game, obviously we don't want that to happen. I'm okay with losing all my money because in my head, like he was a smash play. Like he's going to play all the minutes. He's going to make all the plays. Same goes for Embiid and Milton. Like I'm totally okay with going 100% on guys that I think that are just smash plays. So it comes down to risk tolerance and, whether or not if that X person goes off or doesn't play well, that dictates the rest of your lineup and the rest of your night. So that it's all risk tolerance for me. But yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
Absolutely. Gary, Suggs or Melton?
It's definitely Melton for me.
Okay.
But like Glock said, I mean, Suggs is an amazing tournament play. He's not going to be that owned. I've seen a little bit of ownership on him, but he's been great. 5,900 is a good price. But definitely Melton if had to choose one.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. If Halliburton misses, do you guys like Mathurin? Glock?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like him at the tag off the bench, but man, it feels like the guy comes off the bench and does not miss a shot. Like he'll just come in and just drop 18 straight points, shooting 3-pointers and stuff. But yeah, definitely you'll have to have interest because Halliburton is a huge usage hog on the Pacers. And when he's missing, these other secondary guys are going to have to step up. I might like someone more like Buddy Hield. If Mathurin doesn't start, I think Hield is going to just chuck like crazy.
Right.
But if ownership like gets crazy on Hield before lock, I'm definitely not going to play a chalky Buddy Hield, and someone like Mathurin could be, a potential pivot for sure.
Gary, what do you think?
Yeah, so I just ran a little on-off tool. I put Halliburton off the court as well as Duarte, who's already out. But Mathurin has a 32% usage rate and 113 minutes with Halliburton off the court.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little different, right? Because he normally plays backup minutes and he's with the backup guys. He's not playing with guys like Buddy Hield all the time. But still, yeah. I mean, 30% usage rate. That's something I'm definitely interested in. If
he doesn't miss, man. He checks into the game, chucks it, does not miss. I swear.
Yeah, and I'm seeing 19 field goal attempts per 36 for him, which is actually more than Buddy Hield with Halliburton off the court.
And that's what's good to talk about these situations because, we do have to wait to see how this injury news shakes out. So it's good to talk through, like, if this happens, this is what we might do. We have one other question. Any interest in Roby tonight if both Spurs are out?
I can't do Roby.
He's been a hero for us in the past, like when he's on OKC. And I've seen some quotes from Pop saying that he actually likes him and that he can do a little more than, he expected. So I don't know what to take from that. And he's a 3.1K power 4. I don't know. Like, it's going to be really hard. Like, let's say you have your placeholder as Roby. It's going to be really hard to move around if Pirtle's in. Yeah. You might be stuck with Roby because a 3.1K in your forward spot or your util. I'm just kind of thinking about it right now. Like, the cheapies are
you could go to Beasley.
Yeah,
if you get the news.
Yeah, I mean, that's if you have Beasley there and then you leave like 1K or whatever. But yeah, it'd be a difficult pivot, I would say. But yeah, I mean, he would be in play if Pirtle's out, I think, but he wouldn't be the strongest.
Okay, one more. With all the Philly value, is Paul George worth it if he's very low owned?
Yeah, I mean, I think Glock and I both talked about it. He's definitely gonna be low owned, but 9,800. He's fighting with usage with Kawhi back now. It's just not something I want to do on this slate. I'm gonna stick with the other guys in the earlier games.
Okay, Glock.
Yeah, same here.
Same.
Not a situation I want to mess with. I think he's just gonna. He's like a defector. He'll let Kawhi get cooking. Like let Kawhi get in his rhythm. But obviously, he's had his time to shine by himself, and now he's gonna want Kawhi to get in rhythm. So I'm probably gonna stay away, but he'll definitely be low owned for sure.
Okay, last question, and then we will get your guys' plays of the day. Any interest in Jalen Smith? I'll go to you first, Glock.
Yeah, definitely. He was a guy we were playing a ton of earlier in the season. And then it felt like the Rick Carlisle couldn't really figure out what to do. He was playing him at 4 and 5, and definitely at the 5, he's just way too small, was struggling big time, was picking up fouls left and right, and was not producing. But now I think he's found, where he likes to be at the 4 spot, right next to Miles Turner. And he's put up some good games recently. Obviously 25, you don't want 22.75, you don't want, but his last game against Houston, he was actually, the beneficiary for the Miles Turner foul trouble. Put up 47.5 fantasy points, 18 rebounds, 10 points, 3 blocks, 4 assists. If in lineups that you don't have Miles Turner, I definitely think that you should consider Jalen Smith. Only 4.8K. He's at a season low. This is one of his lowest prices he's been all year. So I definitely have interest. Like Gary mentioned, Orlando struggles a little bit against the big man. I think Bol will be guarding him. If Wendell Carter's in, Wendell Carter is probably going to guard Turner. And then Bol will be guarding Jalen Smith. And I don't think Bol is very good at defense. He has block upside, but he's too skinny. I know Jalen Smith is skinny too, but I think it should be, pretty easy pickings for Jalen Smith. So yeah, I definitely have interest.
What about you, Gary?
I never play Jalen Smith unless Miles Turner is out.
Okay.
That's my rule with Jalen. That's my personal rule with Jalen Smith. So I'm not going to have any of them tonight.
All right, guys. Well, I think it's time to get to our plays of the day. We did get over 100 likes. I think the last time I checked, we had 114 likes. So I think it's time for, everybody's favorite part of the show and the plays of the day. So I'm going to go to Glock first. Glock, what is your Glocked and loaded play of the day?
Yeah, I hope I'm not taking yours, Gary, but I'm going to go Jusuf Nurkic. DVP, we're going to mention it. Utah has been getting absolutely killed. This could completely go the other way, right? I'm going to hope for Kelly Olynyk to go in foul trouble, but today it's going to be reverse. I'm going to go Jusuf Nurkic. He's going to dominate this Utah front court. DeAndre Ayton did it when he wasn't having a particularly good year so far. Joel Embiid dropped 100 fantasy points against them. And I'm not going to say Jusuf Nurkic is going to do the same, but I'm thinking at least 40 plus fantasy points tonight for Jusuf Nurkic. And he's finally going to play 30 plus minutes and, look like his old self.
I like it. All right, Gary, over to you. What is your groundhog play of the day?
I'm going to go a value guy. I've talked him up all show. He's a perfect leverage opportunity. He's going to take place of that 4th Philly value play in my lineup tonight. And he's Malik Beasley from the Utah Jazz. I just think, like Glock and I were talking a little bit pre-show, he said that he has a pretty nice floor, and I agree with that. And he does have a 30-plus ceiling projection as well. So I like Malik Beasley a lot here. He's going to get me a little bit different off of the builds tonight, and I think he gets 30 tonight.
Okay. Well, guys, this has been a ton of fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Be sure, of course, to pay attention to news. If you're a Run Pure subscriber, you can, obviously pay attention in Discord. And of course, be sure to check out everybody's cores later, closer to lock.
Hey, Meg.
Yeah, absolutely.
Real quick.
Yeah.
We just got some news. Do we want to talk through it real quick?
Sure.
Devin Vassell was just listed out. What does that do for you, Glock?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I mean, Trey Jones is firmly in play now, and I think you can really consider someone like Josh Richardson as a value pivot, right? You have Richardson at 4.7K on FanDuel. He's 4.4K on DraftKings. And then he's going to be right in between, like Milton's 3.1K, obviously, and Melton's 5.9. But now you have like a guy in the middle that's priced in the middle of them that will probably have some playmaking duties. I know you don't like him that much, Gary, but it's clear that the Spurs like him, and he's kind of a veteran that can keep all the young guys like Keldon Johnson calm. So I think he's in play now as value. Josh Richardson?
Oh, yeah.
I think he's firmly in play now. Keldon Johnson's probably going to project really well. Man, he's like, it's going to be interesting now because before this news, Anthony Edwards is projected pretty chalky. 7.4K shooting guard, small forward eligible. Keldon Johnson is small forward eligible, 7,500, and now he's not going to have a Devin Vassell. I'm going to be interested to see if that ownership flips, but I'm going to probably take the opposite. So like whoever's higher owned between the two, I'm going to probably play.
So I just ran the court IQ thing again. With these guys off the court, Keldon Johnson's got a 34% usage rate and averaging 22 field goal attempts per 36. So that's something I might be interested in.
Yeah,
so sure. I was just going to ask, so what are you doing with that news, Gary? Specifically?
Yeah, I mean, it's Keldon Johnson, it's Trey Jones.
Okay.
I mean, for me,
those
are the two that get the bump for me.
Right.
Probably, and looking at these numbers, it's probably going to be more Keldon Johnson.
Okay. Well, we stayed on just long enough to get this late breaking news. So thank you for bringing that up. So that works. So guys, again, thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to check out the Discord, check out the core plays later. And we really appreciate you joining us on the Saturday NBA Hardwood. For Gary, for Glock, I'm Meg. Good luck tonight.